A lot of people have been calling this movie pure Spielberg magic, and I totally agree with them. I'm John Hayeck, and welcome to my movie thoughts. Ready Player One. So this is a new movie directed by Steven Spielberg. It's co-written by Ernest Cline and Zach Penn, based upon the book that Ernest Cline wrote back in, I believe, 2011. This movie takes place in the year 2045, where real life is a complete bummer. So most people in real life put on these virtual reality goggles and go into the Oasis. The Oasis is this virtual reality video game-like world where you can do everything you can do in real life, like go to work or be a student, but you can also go on vacations, take adventures, play video games in these really realistic formats. You can meet new friends, you can fall in love, you can do all these amazing things as the type of person that you've always wanted to see yourself as, maybe not necessarily as the person that you are in real life. And that's certainly the case for our lead character, Wade Watts, played by Ty Sheridan. Wade Watts, he's a guy that his parents died a few years before. He's kind of down in his luck. He lives in Columbus, Ohio, in kind of a poorer section of the neighborhood in which he is. But he goes on the Oasis every day to embrace the inner pop culture 80s junkie that he truly believes himself to be. He talks to friends about 80s pop culture. He always watches 80s movies, 80s TV shows. He listens to 80s music. He plays 80s video games. He loves 80s, and he's in luck because when the creator of the Oasis, James Halliday, dies, he leaves behind a trail of clues related to the 80s that lead to an Easter egg, and if anybody finds the Easter egg based on these 80s puzzles, they get complete control over the Oasis. Wade wants to do just that so he can keep the Oasis free and open to everybody, whereas this corporation that Wade's competing against is trying to make sure the Oasis is kind of regulated and has a bunch of ads on it and isn't really all that free for the future. So Wade in this movie has been a likable protagonist who's trying to take down the man using his 80s pop culture references to his advantage. And I'll tell you guys this, a lot of times 80s nostalgia is just used as a gimmick in a movie. Nostalgia of any kind can be used as a gimmick in a movie, but this movie feels like it has 80s nostalgia so woven into its DNA, it doesn't come across as a gimmick at all. Not only does it propel the plot forward, but it propels Wade as a character forward. Ty Sheridan acted really well as Wade in this movie. You see where he is at one place in the movie, you see where he is at the end of the movie, and you recognize, yeah, he really evolved as a person. He's somebody that's relatable, he's somebody that feels like unique as a protagonist, kind of like a Marty McFly or like a Ferris Bueller, but also who's somebody who feels like very personable and very down to earth and very kind of, just very human at times, and I really liked that. But again, seeing the 80s nostalgia be so ingrained in his character and seeing how that motivates him to move from one place in the movie to a more confident place in the movie was really nice. So again, I think they used 80s nostalgia really well to not only drive the plot forward, but to drive the character forward as well. Olivia Cook plays Artemis in the movie. She plays a love interest to Wade. Wade's a love interest to her as well, and she was great. She was a tough girl in the movie, but she wasn't the cliche tough girl. Once you understand her backstory, it really works for the film, and I really liked her. There's a character, what's his name, H in the movie. It's spelled A-E-C-H, so I always thought it was Ock or something like that in the book, but, H in the movie is really cool, supporting comic relief. I thought that he worked really well as a foil towards both Artemis and Wade, and he was just a really, really funny guy who used references to his advantage as well. The whole set piece of this movie being centered around 80s nostalgia and taking place in a virtual reality world could be a bit difficult to pull off, because when you have these avatars like rendered and everything, you're worried, like, is it going to look too much like a video game? Is it going to look like it isn't rendering all the way? It really did, and I loved seeing the gameplay kind of go on as the film went on. And again, Wade and H in particular, as the two of them kind of like moved through these scenes, like, it felt organic and it felt like it was real life, and it felt like the Oasis was just like fully developed mythological place that like could exist, and I really appreciated that. Going back to performances for a second, Ben Mendelsohn was a great villain. He wasn't just a corporate jerk. He felt like a corporate jerk that you could get behind and you kind of understood where he was coming from in some scenes, but also a corporate jerk who needed to be taken down. He felt villainous, he felt ominous, he felt, just kind of, like something that you just did not want to deal with, and I thought that he did a phenomenal job. Simon Pegg was good in the small role he had. Mark Rylance, I'm not going to say he was miscast. I always imagined Tom Cruise, not Tom Cruise, that would be a very different movie. I always imagined Tom Hanks in that role. Tom Hanks would have been my pick to play James Halliday, but I think Mark Rylance was fine in the role. There were a few scenes towards the end where I'm like, this could have used like Tom Hanks' warmth just a little bit more than like what Mark Rylance is doing, but for the most part, I thought that Mark Rylance was fine in the movie. So 99.9% I thought the casting was done really well. The script of this movie moved along super well. I'm always the guy that's complaining movies are too long. This movie, I could have gone for like an extra 10-20 minutes. I will buy the Blu-ray of this thing. I will watch all the deleted scenes because I do think that would help the movie along even a little bit more. There were like 2 transitions in the movie I thought were just a little bit too quick, a little bit too jarring, but I do think the deleted scenes would probably help even those out, like kind of smooth them out just a little bit. For the most part though, I do think the movie flowed really, really well, and I don't think that anybody will be bored for any point in time in the film. Having a MacGuffin really centered it, and having the characters work towards that MacGuffin really made a lot of sense. And again, I never felt like the movie was dragging or moving too quickly at any points. And again, I could have gone for like 10, 20 more minutes of it, but I guess they wanted to keep the runtime at 2 hours, 20 minutes because that was already pushing it. I do think my only other issue with the movie is that there were some lines of dialogue that just felt very cheesy and very cringy at some points. There was this one point, like 15 or 20 minutes of the movie, or it might have been a little bit longer than that, like a half hour into the movie, but about a half hour into the movie when the character says something, I'm like, this, I don't know about that. I feel like that doesn't make a lot of sense. Luckily, they kind of make up for it as the movie goes on, and like the 80s cheesy one-liners that are supposed to be like action-based and everything, a few of them I'm like, I don't know about if this is working, but again, it's way less notable in the second half of the movie than it is in the first half, and even in the first half, you can kind of roll with it because you're like, alright, it's like a fun little adventure, and these characters are like trying to just like embrace who they are, and they're kind of like realizing what works and what doesn't along the way, so again, I can roll with it, I'm fine with that. Besides a couple of jarring transitions and a couple of cheesy lines, I thought this movie was phenomenal. Again, the characterization was great, the casting was amazing, I thought the 80s nostalgia worked to its advantage. Steven Spielberg, besides just that though, brings out the heart in this movie. He brings out the message of be who you are, embrace who you are, don't be afraid to be that person, go outside and make friends too, don't just stay online all day, make sure that you go out and do those things, and always stand up for what you believe in, and I really appreciate that because, like I said last year with Wonder Woman and with Blade Runner 2049, it's not often nowadays that movies really speak directly to the audience. Movies can have these important themes that you're like, I want to dissect that now, but a movie that speaks direct to the audience like this in such a relatable way, I just find myself appreciating more and more. I put this movie on this of something like Blade Runner 2049 or something like Wonder Woman, which were my two favorite movies of last year, and I do think this is going to be one of my favorite movies of 2018. Guys, Ready Player One, it had a couple of flaws, but overall, it's an amazing adventure that feels like an 80s movie that was released in 2018. It's a movie I think you guys have to go see. It's a movie that I think you guys will absolutely love if you were fans of the book, if you were a fan of 80s adventure movies. If you weren't, I can see you guys not loving it. I saw it with a couple friends who weren't necessarily enormous fans of 80s adventure movies, but they still wound up having a pretty fun time with it. Let me know what you guys thought of it all in the comment section down below. I'm going to give it an A. There was one sequence in particular I was like, man, this movie reference, I love it. And you guys know I love movie references in movies, but one scene in particular, I love it. So again, let me know all of your guys' thoughts on this movie in the comment section down below. And let me know your favorite Spielberg movie in the comment section down below as well. I wonder if any of us have the same one. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well, at John M. Hayeck. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and go over to my movie thoughts for more posts from me. Links to all three of those are in the description down below as well. You guys can like this video, comment on it, share it with some friends. I'm John Hayeck. As always, thank you guys so much for watching.